here with NCAA All-American, University of Indiana now, Dr. Coyte Cooper, Doctor of PhD down at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And right now your role, you've had a couple presentations here this morning, and basically fill us in on one, the first presentation, which was on engaging new media technologies.
Yeah, first call me Coyte. I like that a lot better. I'm still uncomfortable with the doctor thing. But the first thing that we wanted to really highlight to coaches is getting into marketing and how you can really build your fan base. And we talked about new media outlets and really focused on three, being, obviously Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And one of the goals of talking to them was encouraging them to use not only use those things to engage with consumers, but to be really creative with them. So with what's going on with all the new phones and that, how can you use those things? If I'm at a dual meet, using those things to get up with coaches and to have them give a pre-match video, and post that on Facebook, and just to improve the fan experience, because I think that's something that's not only lacking in non-revenue, but lacking in wrestling. And the thing that I loved about talking to them is they have the ability to enhance their relations with coaches, because they have control of this. And I don't think there's an excuse anymore, really, because what it takes is very simple. You have phones that can do it. You have the ability to use applications, apps. You have the opportunity to use text messaging to really stay connected. And I think the goal, if it was, for all of us, is to really improve the amount of information that's going out to fans, to interact with them more, because if you build the fans, especially younger generations, just help the sport be more successful in the future.
In terms of response, it's something that a lot of athletic departments and wrestling programs are getting on board with, but as far as the Facebook and Twitter things, it seems a little slow. What have you seen from the wrestling community that's promising in that respect? Yeah,
there's some really great stuff, and I mentioned a couple during the presentation. Some of the videos, Coach Branch at Wyoming coming up with themed videos. I'm a hard-working man. It's a country song, and it just makes complete sense in Wyoming. But I think the more important thing is using YouTube to deliver these things. To have the opportunity where people get a hold of these things, and more people that are watching them. And so that was really cool. Kerry McCoy at Maryland is really outstanding at using Facebook. And the thing that I told the crowd is he has a lot of really creative videos and stuff like that. But the thing that's cool about Coach McCoy is he's more than willing to answer things. He's willing to interact with fans. And as you get more and more, you get into 5,000 or like 60,000 like you have, Jason, that's almost impossible. But taking the time to do it selectively means that you care about your fans. And I think that's so important. And there's people like Joe McFarland at Michigan who, they're posting academic things on their Twitter. And I talked about the importance of building brand. And when you're posting messages about academics and athletics, you're not only building your brand, but for your wrestlers who are looking at that stuff, you send some of the right messages, meaning those things are important. Those are the things that we're promoting to our fans and to our administrators.
The second presentation you had was about the impact on Olympic or non-revenue sports and what administrators think of them with surveys and things of that nature. Some of the responses and data you said was kind of interesting and kind of surprising. I think as we all looked over at some of the coaches here, you saw a lot of raised eyebrows going, really?
Yeah.
And you think, what was the mindset behind creating that survey and basically explaining it to our wrestling community?
Well, I think the mindset was to try to understand what Olympic administrators or administrators of these Olympic sports, what do they value? So many times we think it's only about winning. With non-revenue, it's not only about winning. And so what we wanted to do with this study was go out and say, what is it that they value, so you can allow coaches to go out and to really emphasize these areas. And as we talked about the results, we talked about conduct, both on and off the mat, being one of the most important things to administrators. And we also talked about academics being the third. And so at the top of these things, I call these things brand equity type areas, meaning those are the types of areas that have the potential to either make an athletic department look good or bad. And if you're operating in athletic departments where this really matters to them, it's really important. And we also talked about other areas that related to making sure you're modeling the right behaviors, personal relationships, community involvement. I think those are opportunities for coaches to teach their wrestlers more than just about wrestling. If you go out in community involvement and you engage in those things, you're teaching your athletes about not being selfish, about developing the type of skill sets it would take to be successful in business in different areas. And so while the core of it is certainly to go back and to understand what's important to administrators, it's also important to understand what are things that you can do for your athletes to make the sport more successful. Because, and I want to finish with just two things on this certain area. Number one is that when you do these types of things, you give yourself, you do give yourself a chance to be more successful with administrators. But I think the more important thing is that you have the opportunity to do the right thing. And I'm kind of repeating myself, but I just wanted coaches to understand what are the types of things that, as I said in the presentation, can differentiate wrestling. What's going to make wrestling special? What's going to make administrators look at wrestling programs and say, you know what, they're ahead of the curve here. And that's what I told everybody. I said, let's send a message about wrestling, not only with this presentation, with marketing. Let's send a message about wrestling that, we're serious. I mean, we're going to be really successful in all areas that we focus on.